I mean, just imagine you're one of the board members of Tesla, and Elon Musk gets knocked out on pay-per-view in the UFC. This is a problem for the stock. I mean, Tesla stock could plunge, SpaceX stock could plunge.
Let me tell you something about Andrew. This is my boy right here. You disrespect him, you're disrespecting me.
Inside fighting, shout out to inside fighting.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back. It's the Fight SZN Podcast. It's your boy Jesse Rowe with Inside Fighting, joined as always by Timmy Shoes MMA on Twitter, Timothy James, our head writer at Inside Fighting. What's up, brother? How you doing?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Doing very well. It's a good fight week in the UFC. We got a lot of crazy stories. We've got the biggest pay-per-view of the year, Mark Zuckerberg versus Elon Musk to look forward to. So the one thing I want to start with here is we've just finished week 4 of The Ultimate Fighter. Team McGregor is down 0-4. Chandler is wiping the floor. And I know you've been paying attention. I only watched a little bit of the last episode. I watched more of the previous ones, but this fight versus the Dagestani guy and Trevor something, good fight, but it hasn't gone well for Team McGregor. But that's not even like the biggest news that's sort of surrounded this. Is that the big news really is this Conor McGregor USADA situation, which I've heard different things about this. Like, some people are saying, oh, this is like proof that he's not going to fight in 2023 because he missed this deadline, which was last Friday, for him to enter the USADA testing pool. But I've also heard other people saying that this deadline is actually kind of just like this arbitrary made up thing by the media, where it's not actually like a real thing because Conor is going to be using this exemption for serious injury. I don't exactly know what's going on, but if you ask Michael Chandler, I think Chandler is starting to his nerves are starting to rise a little bit, because he posted a video the other day of USADA at his house, coming to test him literally the day news breaks that Conor McGregor has missed this deadline. So Chandler might actually know more than what he's letting on, but I did find that funny. You might have more insight on this than I do, but I'm on the camp of I'm less concerned about the fight happening, because I think Uncle Dana has some pull. I think he's got Dana White privilege, as Tony Ferguson liked to say. So I don't think that this deadline is as big of a deal as people are making it out to be, but I could be wrong. But enlighten me if you know different.
Right. So the deadline that people are referring to is that you have to be in the USADA testing pool for 6 months before competition. So in order for him to fight before the end of this year, he needed to meet that deadline. There are exemptions. There's therapeutic use exemption, which would be in the case of a serious injury, but also there are exceptional circumstances. If USADA or the UFC think that it would be unfair to not let the athlete compete, these exceptions could be granted. Now, of all the fighters who would get an exemption that he didn't actually deserve, that wasn't actually exceptional circumstances, it's their biggest star, the biggest star in the sport. It's Conor McGregor. But I'm not really sure what's going on, because I heard rumors that Conor was not interested in the fight anymore.
Right.
I kind of feel bad for Chandler, because his red panty night's sort of up in limbo now.
Well, he talked his way into the fight a little bit.
Yep.
I mean, he literally manifested this fight in some to some degree.
Yeah, he came into the UFC. He couldn't beat Oliveira to become champion, but he still became very entertaining right away, fan favorite right away. And if you can't become champion, the next best thing, or maybe even a better thing, is fighting Conor McGregor, right? This is prize fighting for a reason. So we'll see what's going to happen. I don't really know, because, Conor's got all the leverage. If he doesn't want to do this, it's not going to happen. If he's not interested anymore, I mean, Conor's got options. Obviously, he doesn't even have to fight anymore, but he could do boxing instead. He could, I know there was a thing with Mike Perry. I doubt he goes to bare knuckle, but, there's just so many things that Conor McGregor could do. And if it goes anything like how Tough is going, maybe Conor doesn't want to step into the octagon because all the mojo is on Chandler's side.
Right.
He's got that big goose egg, 0-4.
With that being said, I hope that the fight still happens. But the main story of the week, I know that I'm guessing we're going to headline this video based around this story. So we're going to headline the podcast. Is that the biggest fight in the history of the world is going down, Timmy. According to Dana White, the biggest fight in the history of the world, Mark Zuckerberg versus Elon Musk. It just came out of nowhere. Just for people who don't know, I'm going to lay some background on this. Elon was kind of talking shit on Twitter about Threads, which is the new Twitter competitor that Mark Zuckerberg that Meta is creating. It's going to be a like a Twitter alternative where you can transfer all of your Instagram followers to this new app. And he said something about Elon, saying like Elon is insane, I believe, something along those lines. And then Elon started talking crap about Zuck. And then tweeted out randomly, like, I'm down for a cage match if he is.
Yep.
Well, Zuckerberg caught wind of it, goes to his Instagram stories. I love that these two are competing on two different social media apps, by the way. Like, Elon's not on Instagram, Zuck's not on Twitter, so they have to send messages through two different social medias. And Zuck goes to his Instagram stories and says, and quotes the great Khabib Nurmagomedov and says, "Send me location."
Yep.
So then all of a sudden, Dana White catches wind of it. Dana White calls Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg DMs him. I don't know how this works. I don't know how billionaires talk to each other. I'm assuming they have each other's number. There's like some billionaire yellow pages of some kind. But he calls Zuckerberg. Zuckerberg says, hey, is Elon serious? Dana says, I don't know, let me call him. Dana calls Elon. Elon says, I'm serious if he is. Calls him back. Apparently, they're both dead serious. Dana White goes on TMZ Live earlier today, relays it to the world, and now all of a sudden, there's this potential chance for a cage match between the two social media billionaires. What are your thoughts, Timmy? Who you got?
I love it. I mean, if we can have influencer boxing, we can definitely have billionaire cage matches. I love that these guys were not like, oh, let's do a boxing match. They're like, no, we're gonna do MMA. We're gonna step into the cage.
Right.
And I have to say, I'm throwing in my hat with the UFC's next African champion, Elon Musk. I think he is a little bit older, but yeah, this is hilarious.
Is Dricus du Plessis going to be his head coach?
Oh yeah. And then they're all gonna have to compete for who's the real African champion in the UFC. Yeah. I know that Mark Zuckerberg trains. He just won a jiu-jitsu competition recently.
Well, there was speculation about this, by the way, because supposedly Zuckerberg was choked out in a jiu-jitsu tournament. There's these reports that he was choked out. And there was a video. I was looking for video of this for like a week, but I'm pretty sure, and now I don't want to get sued or anything, but I'm fairly certain, allegedly, that there was some silencing going on from, where people were forced to delete videos or something or not report it. But he was apparently choked out. But there's videos of him competing, but there's no videos of him being choked out. It's a very suspicious story, but I will say this. I think Zuckerberg takes MMA very serious, jiu-jitsu very seriously. I mean, he's literally trained with Alexander Volkanovski. He is a true fan of MMA. I mean, he rented out the UFC Apex for the Mackenzie Dern card, I think a couple months ago.
Versus Yan Xiaonan, I think.
No. Maybe.
Was it? Right. I think it was.
Maybe you're right.
Yeah.
So, but he rented out the Apex. He's a huge MMA guy. And he's been training for a while. I think Mark Zuckerberg is going to absolutely wipe the floor with Elon Musk, to be honest. Now, what Elon's got going for him is size. So this is I saw Dominic Cruz posted a video where he sort of analyzed the fight and said that Elon needs to use his steep kicks up the middle and his uppercuts because he's gonna utilize his height on Zuck. I think Zuck is like 5'7". So I'm interested in how they'd meet on weight, where they would meet on in terms of weight.
I didn't realize Mark Zuckerberg was that small.
That's what Cruz said. I don't know either, but that's what Dominic Cruz said in the video that he posted today. So
you know what I was thinking? You know how people call Zuckerberg a lizard person? Like
yes,
he's like and Elon Musk went on Joe Rogan and he was talking about like having a brain implant technology. And I was just like thinking,
oh well, it's a Neuralink. Yeah, Neuralink.
Yeah. So it's going to be like a cyborg versus an alien person, but they're billionaires in the UFC.
That's what Diego Sanchez said, by the way. Diego Sanchez, the Nightmare, went on Instagram and he commented, I believe, on a competitor of Inside Fighting. He commented on their Instagram post about this and said that it's two like alien subspecies, subhumans fighting against each other or something like that. I'll put the quote on the screen. I don't remember exactly what it was, but
I know I like to get lost in the weeds, but if I'm sharing ideas with Diego Sanchez, it might be time to
that's a problem.
Clear the air a little bit.
That is a problem. But so all that being said, do you actually think that this fight takes place? Do you think that this is actually a real possibility?
I don't think so.
Dana White seems even though the UFC, as Dana White said, they don't engage in gimmick fights, Timmy, but he does want to make this one happen. And do you see a chance that this actually does happen, or do you think this is just kind of two billionaires having some fun on social media?
Yeah, I think they're just having fun. I don't see it actually happening. I kind of want it. I really want to see it happen.
Well, the angle that I have, and you could probably sorry to interrupt you, is I feel like it's a problem for the stock market because there's so many investors for Tesla and for Meta, which is now Meta. I still call it Facebook, but they I mean, just imagine you're one of the board members of Tesla and Elon Musk gets knocked out on pay-per-view in the UFC. This is a problem for the stock. I mean, Tesla stock could plunge, SpaceX stock could plunge. I don't see it happen for those reasons. If something like this does happen, it's going to be like a charity grappling thing or something like that. Like, I don't think they would actually like throw punches, ground and pound, that sort of stuff where it's violent and you see the head of Tesla with blood on his face. I don't see it happening. I think there's
these guys are competitive, right? If it was a charity match, I could see them because they're super competitive. You have to be as successful as they are. And it's supposed to be friendly, and then it doesn't get so friendly. But yeah, that's pretty funny that you brought up the stocks plummeting. It would sink faster than that Titanic submarine did.
Oh my God! Too soon.
Too soon.
Yeah. Speaking of billionaires who don't know what to do with their money, I mean, all right. Well, with that being said, let's go to some real fighting. We actually have real fights going on this weekend. Take it away, Timmy. You've got the odds.
So yeah, we got some fights this weekend. My boy Randy Brown is on the card. We've got Josh Emmett versus Ilia Topuria in the main event. We've also got Amanda Hibas and Macy Barber in the co-main. There's a lot of really good fights on the undercard. This is not an Apex card. It's in Jacksonville. So some pretty interesting fights. There's Tatsuro Taira. He's a Japanese prospect. He's undefeated. He's supposed to be the next big thing at flyweight. I'm kind of surprised. He's the first fight of the night. So fans, look out for that one. We've also got, Neil Magny's on the card. Cody Brundage is fighting. Brandon Allen's fighting. So it's a pretty decent fight night card. So looking at the odds, I just want to say, everyone, put the house on my man, Randy Brown. He's a minus 130 favorite against Wellington Turman, who is a plus 100. If you don't know, my man Randy is undefeated against Brazilians. Turman is a Brazilian who's been knocked out a bunch. And I think Turman's been knocked out like three times in his last 4 fights. No, okay. He got knocked out by Bruno Silva and by Andrew Sanchez. So, he's a little chinny, as we like to say in the business. And I think my boy Randy's going to knock him out. Jesse, what do you think?
Well, anytime that Timmy picks against a Brazilian, it's gonna my antenna is gonna light bulb starts going off. So I agree I like Randy Brown. Obviously he had his last fight was kind of tough going up against JDM, or is Jack Della Maddalena. I always forget how to pronounce his name, but underrated trash talk though by Randy Brown in that fight. He said that he wanted to move Jack's nose from one side of his face to the other. Jack has a crooked nose like myself. So I think he's got some underrated trash talk. I like Randy's style. I'm trying to talk my way around this myself, saying I just don't know that much about Wellington Turman to pick him in this fight.
Yeah.
So, and the fact that Randy, I'm seeing on the UFC page, he's minus 225. What do you have him as?
On DraftKings, he's minus 130.
Oh, wow. He's minus 225 on the UFC website. That's interesting. So The fact of the matter is, if he's somewhere in between that on most sports books.
Oh, whoops. No, I wasn't looking at the money line. I was looking at the point spread.
Oh, okay.
Uh-huh.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I thought that was a little, I was a little confused by that as well. I got to look at the right thing. He's minus 230 on DraftKings.
Okay.
That makes a lot more sense.
That makes this easier for me then, because I was already thinking Randy Brown when I thought of this before I even saw the odds. So I'll take Randy. I think he's actually like kind of low key due for a little bit of a run here in the UFC. I think he could potentially go on a little bit of a run. I think he's got the right frame for welterweight. He's got kind of a similar frame to Leon Edwards. So I like that pick. I like it.
Yeah. He's extremely tall. He's 6'3" or 6'4".
Yeah.
Towers over everyone.
I could see another knockout in this one, like a head kick KO or something like that. I could see that.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a straight punch, a straight right hand.
I like it.
Right. I think we got a really good high value underdog in the main event. Josh Emmett versus Ilia Topuria. Emmett is a plus 285 underdog. Topuria is a minus 345, and I don't disagree with the odds. I honestly think Topuria, he can win this fight any way he wants to, but Josh Emmett has that off switch, that one shot KO power at featherweight that we haven't really seen since, McGregor's run at featherweight, right? I'm trying to think if there are other one punch guys at 145 like that. And, Emmett's the guy. He's the guy who can put the lights out with one shot. Coming off his loss against Yair, obviously Ilia Topuria is a monster, and he probably will win. But plus 285, you want to bank on a knockout? Who knows? What do you think?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, and there were a couple. Obviously, that Emmett performance against Yair wasn't a great performance, but there were a couple of moments in that fight where he did have Yair in some trouble, and he just didn't put it together for whatever reason. He just couldn't find that kill switch, and
he couldn't close the distance. That was what I remember happening. Yair's really good at managing the distance.
But I think he wobbled him a couple of times, if I remember. I'd have to go back and watch the fight. And I agree. I think Emmett has that, puncher's chance in any fight that he's in at featherweight. And I think that Topuria has shown that he is open to taking some shots in fights. He's found himself into some scary situations. Like Bryce Mitchell, he basically just beat the crap out of. But, Mitchell landed a couple of shots in that fight. And then the famous one, the guy he knocked out in London, I forget who it was. Who was it?
Yeah, I'm blanking on his name. That was a fight at lightweight. And he got head kicked.
It was a good fight. Topuria ate a couple shots. It was scary for him.
He ate a head kick and he was wobbled.
Yeah. I am picking Topuria. All that being said, I think Topuria is on his track. This is the fight that's going to get him the title shot, or this is the fight that's going to get him a shot against Holloway. But the problem is that Holloway is fighting Korean Zombie, and I don't see that as like a title eliminator. That just feels like we're just going to do this because we never squared up. I think Topuria will fight the winner of Volk Yair. That's my guess is what's going to happen. And they're going to fight later in the year. And so I am going to pick Topuria, but I do like the idea of Emmett being a high value underdog. I'm not that confident in it, even though I love Topuria. I think he's going to be a champion. I don't think it's as clear as day with this Emmett fight for the reasons that you said. It's just one shot, and Emmett's really good. And he's a guy that sort of figured it out later in his career. And those guys scare me.
Yeah.
You know, he has a very limited amount of time. Josh Emmett does,
Yeah.
but the time is now for him. And guys like that are always scary. So
yeah, and they're closer in height. Like Topuria is not going to be able to manage the distance as well as Yair, who's a little bit taller for the division. And I just want to say this. I just want to throw this out. Why are they doing that to Korean Zombie? It's his last fight in UFC. It's going to be in Korea. They couldn't give him a tomato can to beat up in front. They never do. They never do because, you know, they got to put on the best fights possible. But you put the man against Max Holloway, it feels bad, man. It feels bad. I love the Korean Zombie. But yeah, Topuria opens up himself up to the brawl. That's why I think it's possible he gets clipped, he gets knocked out. We'll see.
Yeah, it is possible. Are you picking Emmett or are you picking Topuria?
I'm picking Topuria.
Yeah. I think that's fair. And don't sleep on Josh Emmett. I guess what I'll say is don't be surprised. A lot of people are going to be like, "Oh my God, this is shocking." And no, it's really not that shocking if Emmett ends up winning. It's just that I think that Topuria is destined for that title shot, and I want to see that Topuria Volkanovski fight. I think that just sounds like awesome to me. I think Yair is going to be a handful for him, but I still think Volk gets it done. I think Topuria is a much different challenge for Volk. And I want to see it. I want to see it. So, you know, it's just in terms of like, hey, what am I more interested in? A Josh Emmett versus Volkanovski fight or a Topuria versus Volkanovski fight? I mean, it's like.
Yeah. I mean, Topuria is the next big thing, right? He's undefeated. Yeah. He's young. He's got a pretty good personality. So we'll see. And he's beefing with Paddy Pimblett. So, you know.
Well, he's moved on from Paddy. He's moved on. Apparently.
We'll see.
Yeah.
I would not doubt if that fight ever somehow presents itself, if that goes down.
Well, thanks for joining me, Timmy. You're the best. Guys, if you haven't already, subscribe, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and yeah, we'll see you at the fights. Timmy, take it away. Any last words?
InsideFighting.com. We're the best in the business. Jesse, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure doing this podcast. And yeah, let's see how the fights play out.
Sounds good. I got a submarine to catch. I'll see you later, brother. Yeah. Peace.
Let me tell you something about Andrew. This is my boy right here. You disrespect him, you're disrespecting me.
Inside fighting, shout out to Inside Fighting.